So far, when we've set permissions, we've used letters to represent the various permissions. So R represented read, W represented write, and X represented execute. We can also use numbers to represent the permissions. Sometimes this is easier, especially when you're creating a directory for the first time and you want to set all the permissions at once. So if I wanted to, in the alpha way of setting a permission, set the permission for, let's say, the others to read, write, execute, what I would do is run this command here. Chmod O plus RWX to the file that I wanted to chmod. Well, if I want to do that with the numeric way, I have to write out all three entities' positions. So it would go like this. Chmod 0, that's the number 0. 0, and that represents the users and the group, and then 7. This is equivalent to this in the numeric way of doing it. So basically what I'm saying is I want read 4, write 2, and execute 1, which would equal 7, given to the third position, which is the others. If I only want to give them the write permission, I can delete that, and I can then write in a 4. Or no, write would be 2, like that. So that would be 0, 0, and 2, which would be no permissions to the users, no permissions to the group, and write to the others. It seems difficult at first, but it really isn't. And it's not hard to remember what number is represented by what permission. Easy way for me to remember it is that the word read has 4 letters in it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, which means that 4, right, equals R as far as permissions go. Write begins with a W, right? I think 2 U's, W, and that's how I remember that write in numeric notation is a 2. And then execute, you can think of a hangman's galley or a flag. X marks the spot where the flag is posted. Any of those typically will work. They're not difficult to actually remember. So let's go to the command line and use some of these. So here we are back at the command line in the sales directory. I've cleaned it up a little bit and I've created a new file, and we'll use that file to change permissions using numeric notation. So remember earlier when I wanted to remove all permissions from this file, I was able to type A equals blank new file, and that would take all the permissions away. It leaves me nothing. To do that, I'm going to give the permissions back to that file again. I'll say 777, which is, this means all permissions, read, write, execute to user, read, write, execute to group, read, write, execute to the others on the new file. And then you can see that if I want to remove all permissions from that file with the chmod command and the notation, I would come over here and basically type 000, right, for those 3 entities. And all permissions are gone. If I want to add permissions to it, let's say I'll type chmod 2, 4, 1. What is happening here is that the user position will get write, the group position will get read, and the others will get execute. Let's go see if that actually happens. Sure enough, there you go. Now we know that those first 3 after the first bit, that represents the user, those represent the group, and finally those represent the others. It's a very convenient way. Now here's an important point. If I was to say to you, go and add the write permission to the group of this file, of the new file, and you want to use the numeric way of doing it, you just can't come in here and say chmod g plus 2, new file. It doesn't work that way. You have to specify all 3 entities in one shot. So if I asked you just to give right to the group for this file, you would have to first come in here, look at it, and figure out exactly what numbers we have here, and then what number I would have to add to this to equal right. So in that case, to do this, I'd have to say chmod, and that's a 4, and then I have, oh, I'm sorry, that's not a 4, that's a 2. See how easy you can make a mistake? That's a 2. I have a 4, I want to add a 2, which is right, so that'll make it 6, and then I have 1 new file. That seems complicated for adding one simple permission. So typically what you'll do with the numeric way of specifying permissions is use it in the initial creation of the folder or the file that you want to change all 3 permissions at once. Because even though this worked, you saw that it could easily have a problem. And I can easily change permissions like I almost did. I almost put, instead of a 2, a 4, and completely changed the permissions on that file incorrectly, by the way. So easiest thing to do. I come up to you and I say, I want you to take the right permission away from the group. You don't have to go back in here and figure it all out again, even though we can. The easiest thing to do is to say chmod g minus w new file. When someone's asking you, or you just need to change one permission for one entity, the easiest way to do it is to use the alpha way of representing it. That will not fail. I can't make a mistake because I have been told to take right away from the group. And that is what that will do, and only that. It will change nothing else in the file. So the numeric way of changing files is very convenient when starting out with something new. Not very useful when you have to really specifically change only certain aspects of the permissions. That's where the alpha one really shines. And typically, you'll be using the alpha way of adding or removing permissions. Next, we're going to hop out and look at the special permissions. So we have the special permissions to look at. We'll see how those affect the system. And then we'll look at the UMask after that. And then I'll try to put it all together in one last little shot and show you how it all comes together to create a file and folder.